As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the rolling hills, Moses stood alone, staring at the promised land he had led his people toward for so many years. This was a moment of deep reflection for the great leader of the Israelites. In his heart, he felt the weight of a sacred promise that he would never fulfill. For 40 long years, Moses had guided his people through the wilderness, sharing in their joys and struggles. But now, he faced a heartbreaking reality. He would not enter the land flowing with milk and honey. It was a decree made by God after his misstep at the waters of Meribah. Overwhelmed by emotion, Moses fell to his knees and began to pray. According to the Midrash Rabbah, he prayed not just once, but 515 times, fervently beseeching God to allow him just a glimpse of the land. He even drew a circle in the sand, declaring, "I will not move from here until you nullify the decree." His determination shone brightly, a testament to his unwavering love for the land entrusted to his people. "Master of the universe," Moses pleaded, "if I cannot enter, let me at least see it as a bird or a beast, content with the beauty." Yet God's response was firm. "Enough, speak no more to me of this matter." Moses' heart ached, but he accepted God's will. Instead of dwelling on his loss, Moses turned his focus to Joshua, the next leader. "Charge him and encourage him," God commanded, knowing that Moses' teachings would guide them into the future. Though he could not enter, Moses' spirit and legacy would forever live on in the hearts of the Israelites as they crossed into their new home. In the heart of Parashat Va'etchanan, Moses stood before the new generation of Israelites, ready to share the essence of their faith. It was a pivotal moment as they prepared to enter the Promised Land. Moses reminded them of the 10 Commandments, recounting that dramatic encounter at Mount Sinai 40 years earlier, where they first received God's laws. The Midrash Tanchuma tells us that God revealed himself in different forms, as a mighty warrior at the Red Sea and a sage at Sinai, to teach that they should not mistake his presence for many gods. "I am the Lord your God." As he spoke, he urged the Israelites to embrace the Shema, the declaration of God's oneness. "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." He explained a unique insight by the Maggid of Mezerich, who taught that the command to love comes from truly listening and understanding God's will. Moses instructed the Israelites to teach these principles to their children, to make them a part of daily life through physical reminders like tefillin and mezuzot. The Talmud, Menachot 43b, described these as strings tied around one's finger, reminders of God's commandments. This wasn't just about rituals, it was about meaningful living. Sforno explained that obeying these laws would lead the Israelites to a life enriched with purpose. Moses' teachings laid a foundation for their identity, guiding them through the challenges ahead. These lessons from thousands of years ago still resonate today, reminding us that Judaism is a complete way of life, engaging the mind, heart, and actions in pursuit of faith and purpose. As the sun began to rise over the rugged hills of Moab, a crowd of Israelites gathered, their faces a mix of hope and anxiety. Moses, their beloved leader, stood before them, ready to share a vital message. They were on the brink of entering the Promised Land, a place filled with promise but also great responsibility. Moses spoke with passion, reminding them of their special relationship with God. "For what great nation is there that has a God so near to it as the Lord our God is to us?" he asked, his voice echoing in the still morning air. Deuteronomy 4:7. The people listened intently, reflecting on the closeness they shared with their Creator, a bond unlike any other. He shared the story of his ascent to heaven, where the angels questioned why a mere human like him was allowed there. Midrash Rabbah. "Did you suffer as we did in Egypt?" Moses challenged the heavenly beings. He emphasized that the Torah was a gift for humanity, a guide born from their struggles and aspirations. Moses urged the Israelites to see the beauty of their laws. "What great nation has such righteous statutes?" Deuteronomy 4:8, he declared, inviting them to embrace their role as a light unto the nations. However, he reminded them gently but firmly that this gift brought with it a challenge. "If you forget the Lord your God," he warned, "you shall surely perish." Deuteronomy 8:19-20. Their chosen status depended on their faithfulness and devotion. As the crowd absorbed this profound message, they understood their mission was clear: to serve others, to live by high moral standards, and to illuminate the world with God's teachings. With renewed purpose, the Israelites prepared to enter their new land, ready to fulfill their destiny. In a vast desert, the Israelites stood around Moses, their leader, who had gathered them before entering a new land. The air was filled with the weight of ancient wisdom, as Moses warned them, "Be careful. When you arrive in this new place, many will tempt you with their idols and strange gods." He remembered the day they stood before Mount Sinai, where they heard God's voice but saw no form. "God is formless," Moses declared, echoing the words of Rambam, who taught that God is unlike any being in the world. The shiny statues of the sun and moon caught the eyes of some among them, but Moses warned, "Don't bow down to these celestial bodies. They do not control your fate, for it is the Lord who cares for you." This was not just about avoiding physical idols. It was about recognizing the true nature of God. Ibn Ezra reminded everyone that thinking God delegates power to stars was itself a form of idolatry. Moses, looking into the faces of the people, felt a mixture of hope and concern. "You will be lost," he said, "but even in your darkest days, if you seek God with all your heart, you will find him again." The Ramban spoke of a future exile, but promised a return. The Baal Shem Tov reassured them that no matter how far they strayed, they could always return. As Moses' voice echoed through the desert, he reminded them that understanding God was as important as worshiping him. The Israelites nodded, knowing they had a unique mission to uphold as they moved forward into an unfamiliar land, one of unwavering faith in the one true, formless God. In ancient Israel, as the Israelites prepared to enter the Promised Land, Moses spoke to the people about justice and mercy. He told them about the cities of refuge, safe havens for anyone who accidentally caused harm. These cities were meant for a manslayer, someone who killed unintentionally and without hatred. In Deuteronomy 4:41-43, Moses named 3 cities on the eastern banks of the Jordan River: Bezer, Ramoth, and Golan. The Torah showed a new way of thinking about justice, distinguishing between intentional murder and accidental killings. In many places, a person who caused a death faced severe punishment, sometimes even from the victim's family seeking revenge. But God provided a different path. According to the Talmud, Makot 10a, when Moses killed the Egyptian by accident, he learned the importance of mercy. So he established these cities as a refuge for those in need. When someone fled to these cities, they found not just a safe place, but also a supportive community where their needs were met. In these cities, the unintentional killers had time to reflect and atone for their actions, transforming their lives. Even the distribution of these cities was wise and practical. Talmudic teachings noted that many people in Gilead had committed unintentional killings, showing that the need for refuge was greater there. In the end, the cities of refuge embodied the Torah's revolutionary approach to justice, highlighting the sanctity of every life. In the heart of the desert, as the sun began to set, Moses gathered the people of Israel around him. They were a new generation, born in freedom but still yearning for guidance. With a voice that echoed like thunder, he began to recount the moment when God spoke to their ancestors at Mount Sinai. "The Lord spoke to you out of the midst of the fire," he said. reminding them of the awe and wonder of that day. They had heard the voice but seen no form, a testament to the mysterious and formless nature of God. As he spoke, he wanted them to grasp the importance of this event in their history. Moses then recited the Ten Commandments anew, highlighting their significance for this younger generation. He paused at the fourth commandment, "Remember the Sabbath." He explained that, unlike their parents who had just escaped slavery, they now understood freedom. God commanded them to rest, not just because he created the world, but also because he had redeemed them from oppression. Deuteronomy 5:15. Next, he shifted to the 10th commandment, noting how it had changed. "You shall not covet your neighbor's wife." In the wilderness, where they lived in tents, a house wasn't their greatest desire. Now, as they prepared to build homes in the Promised Land, they understood the weight of these words. Moses emphasized that these commandments were not mere rules. They were a gift from God. The Lubavitcher Rebbe once taught that as they absorbed these laws over 40 years, they now accepted them willingly. These principles would guide them in their new lives, helping them build a society based on justice, family, and community. With every word, Moses ensured that the covenant between God and Israel was alive, vibrant, and ready to guide them into the future. Once upon a time, in a village filled with whispers of faith, lived a young boy named Eli. Each evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Eli sat with his grandfather, listening intently. One night, Eli's grandfather shared the heart of Jewish belief. The Shema, a powerful declaration of faith found in Deuteronomy. Eli's eyes widened with wonder. He felt this statement deep within his heart. "Grandfather, how can one be commanded to love God?" Eli asked. His grandfather smiled, recalling the wisdom of the Maggid of Mezerich. "We learn to love through understanding," he replied. As the days passed, Eli practiced the Shema, repeating it when he awoke and before he slept, filling his heart with its meaning. He remembered the teachings. "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and might." He would see the mezuzah at his door and the tefillin on his father's arm, reminding him of God at every turn, as explained in the Sefer HaChinuch. One day, as Eli walked home, he gazed at the sky and whispered the Shema. In that moment, he felt connected, not only to God but to his community and heritage. Eli realized that love for God was about making his presence a part of life's every moment, fulfilling the timeless call of his ancestors. As the sun set over the lush hills of the Promised Land, the Israelites gathered around Moses. Their hearts were filled with hope and excitement, but Moses had a warning to share. "As you enter this bountiful land, be careful," he urged. "When you eat and are satisfied, remember the one who brought you here," he urged. His words echoed the teaching of the Ramban, who understood that in times of struggle, people turn to God, but in times of comfort, they often forget him. Moses reminded them of the abundant cities, the overflowing tables, and the vineyards yet to be tended, all gifts from God. He spoke of the danger that prosperity can bring. "When you flourish, don't let your hearts become proud," he cautioned, echoing the teachings of the Sforno. He shared a parable from the Midrash Tanchuma about a king and his son, reminding them, "Remember who planted this orchard." As the people listened, they recalled their years in the desert, the daily miracles of manna and water from the rocks. Now, in the land of plenty, they faced a choice. The Baal Shem Tov whispered a deeper truth. "Don't forget your divine soul amid all this abundance." Moses urged them to offer praises after every meal, teaching them the mitzvah of Birkat Hamazon, to always express gratitude for their blessings. This wisdom was not just for then, but for all time. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, the Israelites prepared to enter their new life, heartened by Moses' warning, knowing they must guard their spirits amid their newfound prosperity. In ancient times, as the Israelites stood at the edge of the Promised Land, Moses gathered them around. He spoke with a voice full of wisdom and passion, reminding them of their special connection to God. "You are a people holy to the Lord." Moses explained that this chosenness came with a purpose. The Sforno taught that they were to be a light unto the nations, spreading knowledge of God to the world. Rather than being privileged, they were tasked with a great responsibility. He shared an ancient tale from the Talmud. One day, the nations of the world questioned God about why Israel was his chosen people. When offered a simple commandment to fulfill, they gave up quickly. This showed that Israel's chosenness was about their readiness to accept the burdens of divine service. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi likened the Jewish people to the heart in the body. Sensitive and aware, they were to feel and respond to the spiritual calls of the world. The Lubavitcher Rebbe emphasized each Jew's unique mission, inspiring everyone to embrace their individual roles in God's design. As Moses spoke, it became clear. Being chosen was not about superiority, but a profound call to responsibility. The Mishnah, too, echoed this thought by valuing every single soul in creation. Thus, the Israelites understood their task as they prepared to enter the Promised Land, to live by God's laws, to set a moral example, and to contribute to the world's betterment. In this unity of purpose, they found strength and identity, ready to embrace their unique mission. In the parasha known as Va'etchanan, we find a heartfelt moment in the life of Moses. After leading the Israelites for 40 long years in the desert, he stands at the edge of the Promised Land, filled with longing and hope. He approaches God with a sincere prayer, asking, "Let me go over and see the good land beyond the Jordan." Moses pours out his soul, praying fervently, even repeating his request 515 times, a testament to his deep desire and commitment. Yet, despite his heartfelt pleas, God responds with a clear no, stating that Moses would not enter the land. This moment teaches us important lessons. First, even the strongest faith can face disappointment, but one must continue to serve God. Moses accepts God's will with grace and teaches the people nonetheless. The Lubavitcher Rebbe reminds us that prayer is about connecting with God, regardless of whether we get the answer we want. Interestingly, God also shows kindness by allowing Moses to see the land from afar. As the Or HaShaim explains, this gift granted Moses a vision of future generations living in Israel. This emphasizes that no prayer is ever truly in vain. As Moses prepares Joshua to lead, he exemplifies the importance of combining prayer with action. The Talmud teaches us that we should never stop praying, even in the hardest times. Moses' story serves as a reminder that, although we may face rejection, maintaining our faith and striving in our duties can lead to unexpected blessings and growth, inspiring generations of the Jewish people.